The battle between Stain and the UA students is nothing short of masterful. Stain's mini-arc has been packed with character progression, thematic resonance, and a dark tone shift. And this 2-episode fight ties all of that together in a clever, well-paced, and downright badass fight. Right off the bat, My Hero Academia nails a trope that other shows stumble over: the hero's last-minute arrival. This can be one of the most aggravating aspects of a fight if it's executed poorly, but Kohei Horikoshi's clever writing turns it into a strength. Izuku isn't just sitting in a pod waiting for the author to decide when it's time for him to fight. Before this moment, he had spent the entire episode searching Hosu City for Ida. From a structural standpoint, this builds tension, as we wonder whether or not Izuku will find Ida in time. There is a legitimate obstacle stopping Izuku from making the save, so when he does finally stumble upon the hero killer by chance, it feels like a miracle. The fact that he found Ida at all makes sense from a logical standpoint as well. Izuku knows that Ida was in Hosu City looking for the hero killer. He knows that the hero killer typically kills his victims in back alleys. There is an element of chance that lessens Izuku's odds of finding them, but it's not completely random either. After punching Stain in the face, Izuku secretly sends his location to Todoroki, which sets up his last-minute save later on. Since it would be impossible for Izuku to carry Ida and the native hero while also avoiding Stain's attacks, he has no choice but to delay Stain until more help arrives. Before the fight enters its first stage, there is a brief interaction between Ida, Izuku, and Stain that reinforces Izuku's resolve, establishes Stain's motive to spare Izuku, and furthers the nuance of Stain's philosophy. Then Izuku rushes Stain and displays his progress with One for All full cowling, paralleling Bakugo's movements from their clash in Season 1 in the process. This does little to faze Stain, however, who had managed to graze Izuku and immediately immobilize him. This is just the first example of how this fight does an exceptional job at emphasizing the power gap between Stain and Izuku's classmates. Not only did Stain beat Izuku in a single exchange, but he did so with merely a scratch. This moment also informs Izuku on how Stain's quirk works, so when Todoroki shows up later, Izuku can warn him about it. Todoroki's use of fire instead of ice here symbolizes his progression since fighting Izuku. But if you'd like more details on that, I recommend checking out Nux Taku's video on this fight. He actually made like 3 videos about Stain's impact on the series thus far, so if you liked Stain, I highly suggest you check those out. After you finish this video, of course. Don't you fucking leave me. Todoroki decides to keep his distance using his quirk, but Stain immediately throws a knife and cuts him. When Stain rushes him, he tosses one of his swords into the air to distract Todoroki so he can activate his quirk. But Todoroki again uses his fire to create distance. Stain quickly overwhelms him again, but before he can finish him off, Izuku recovers from Stain's quirk and drags him away. What's great about this development is twofold. First of all, I like how Izuku doesn't just immediately know the answer. He develops 3 different hypotheses to explain how he broke free, which makes sense given how analytical he was during every other fight he took part in. All of his thoughts are logical too. He considers the amount of people affected, the amount of blood that Stain ingested, and Stain's actual weakness, a person's blood type. This brings me to my second point. While the concept of quirks may not be as flexible as, say, the Nen system in Hunter x Hunter, I have to give Horikoshi credit for giving each quirk clear and reasonable limitations. Plenty of these abilities seem ridiculously overpowered, like the way Todoroki's half and half cancels out the potential weakness of hypothermia or overheating, or how Bakugo's flames burn stronger based on how much he sweats, and how much he sweats can be increased by how much fire he puts out. But the beauty of these quirks is that they can be neutralized by simple things, like a lack of stamina. In Stain's case, his power would be lethal if it weren't for its 8-minute time limit. His power isn't fit for long battles, which isn't normally an issue for him since he kills his opponents quickly and in isolation. Even if you ignore the blood type restriction, this battle against the UA students plays to 2 of his other weaknesses. He has to fight multiple people, and because there are more people to fight, the battle gets drawn out. In a one-on-one fight, Stain is practically unstoppable, but in this fight, he isn't. This doesn't imply that Todoroki and Izuku are on his level by any means, but they aren't totally helpless as a team. We then cut back to Ida, who keeps saying that this is his fight, that he inherited the Inganium name, and now he has to live up to it. This gives Todoroki a chance to expound upon his own development, and use that to spur on Ida's based on the parallels the 2 characters share. He tells Ida to look properly at what you want to be, relaying the very same message that Izuku once told him. Then Ida stands up and comes to Todoroki's aid with a Recipro burst. This overheats his radiator just like in the Cavalry challenge, But this time, he gets Todoroki to cool it down using his quirk. This is another clever way for quirks to play off of each other, and it gives each character a hand in the final sequence that brings down Stain. Even after hitting Stain with a full cowling punch and a reciproburst kick, it still takes another kick to the ribs and a flamethrower to finally knock the hero killer unconscious. What ultimately leads to Stain's undoing in this battle is his arrogant drive to kill Ida and the native hero. Stain understood that a 2-on-1 fight wouldn't be easy, and he knew that more heroes would inevitably arrive. Yet he continued to fight, and eventually, he ran out of time. His defeat wasn't determined by a lack of strength. It was determined by a combination of negative factors, as well as his own recklessness. That is how you believably bridge a power gap. And that's why this fight is my favorite in the series thus far. Special thanks to King Kevin 30, Micah Dunn, Stone Cold 0007, and all of my other patrons for supporting videos like these. I hope you like My Hero Academia, because I've got another Stain-related script in the works that should be out in a few days. Hopefully. In the meantime, if you're looking for something different from me, why not check out some of my Pokemon content on my gaming channel? I recently started a Red Rescue Team series, and I'm really proud of how that's been going so far. If that doesn't sound interesting, I also have a vlogging channel where I post rambling discussions about my content, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and who knows what else. Until next time, keep on YouTubing.